The Rangers have been in desperate need of a spark all season, and what better way to get it than your first walk-off home run of the year against the team you hate the most.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into the walk-off wonder of Josh Smith, of course, Corey Seager tying it with one swing in the 9th inning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, the Rangers beat the Astros in 10 innings. The ball did not lie. It did not come off the bat any way other than perfect off of Josh Smith's bat in an absolutely beautiful, majestic walk-off home run. The first one the Rangers have had this season, the first one the Rangers have had since that fateful Adolis Garcia Game 1 11th inning walk-off home run in the World Series to clinch what was the most beautiful game anyone has ever played in the history of baseball. And this one wasn't quite that, but it was pretty darn good. This one had some similarity to that in that Corey Seager tied the game with one swing. And it had 2 of my favorite things in baseball. 1, a walk-off home run. Empirically, the best way to end any sporting game ever. It is just the best. The drama, the majesty, the beauty, the excitement. It's perfect. It is the perfect way to end any sporting event. The second favorite thing of mine in baseball is when the pitcher and the catcher go to the mound, have a visit, discuss a strategy, and then still end up giving up a massive home run. Just my favorite thing. Just, okay, let's make sure we get on the same page. We're going to do this and this and this. We got to avoid this, avoid this. He swings at this pitch, blah, 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 blah. And then you give up the big fat dong anyway. And this happened twice in this game. Twice they had mound visits. One ahead of Corey Seager's game-tying home run in the 8th inning, given up by Ryan Pressly. And then once in the 10th inning, with 2 outs facing Josh Smith, who had been a little bit cold since the All-Star break. Did have a 3-hit game against Boston this past weekend, but overall hadn't quite been his same first-half Josh Smith self. And so, Yainer Diaz goes to the mound, has a chat with Mr. Ferguson, new acquiree at the trade deadline, a guy who the Astros traded for just to get another lefty reliever in their pen, a guy with a 5.5 ERA with the Yankees, and who has since given up runs in each of his first 2 appearances since the trade deadline. And he gets to 3-1 on Josh Smith, and God bless Dave Raymond, calling it perfectly, saying, well, at 3-1, he's probably going to get something to hit there. And he does. And he mashes it. Not the most gift middle pitch that was thrown by Astros relievers. That belonged to Josh Hader, and an 0-0 slider thrown to Josh Young that he just took for strike 1. That I thought Josh was going to hit a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th inning. Silly me, Josh was going to hit a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 10th inning. But it was the other Josh. This was just a majestically hit game by the Rangers. Still not coming up offensively like you would have hoped. Hunter Brown threw a very, very good game, and this Astros bullpen, despite being lit up frequently this year, still does have some amazing stuff back there in Josh Hader, in Ryan Pressly, in Brian Abreu. Now, not as perfect and untouchable as initially folks anticipated, but still a very good bullpen. But the Rangers bullpen was just better. Their starting pitching was better. And getting hits like this in those moments, just the sign of a team that is maybe starting to turn that corner. This is a beautiful moment for this Rangers team that needs to win at least 2 out of 3 games against Houston. Probably at least 2 out of 3 games in every 3 games they're playing from now until the end of the season. But doing it against your rivals, this is your last series of the year against Houston, your last chance to gain some ground on one of the teams that's ahead of you in the AL West chase, and also one of the teams that's ahead of you in the AL wildcard chase, which feels a little bit more out of reach. Rangers are still, 8 games back in the wild card? Yeah, 8.5 games back, in the wild card. That ship might have sailed. It might not have, but it has probably sailed. But there are 2 teams ahead of you in the AL West. One of them is the Astros, who you can finally win the season series for the first time in, God, I don't know how long, in the regular season. They did win in the postseason, which, matters just a little bit more. But still, this is the kind of thing that can give you that kind of a spark. This is the kind of game that this offense is capable of. Maybe even better. I mean, Hunter Brown's a solid pitcher, but he has had his moments for sure. His ERA just got lowered below 4 this year, which, it's not exactly a pitcher-unfriendly year. The Rangers really had a lot of opportunities offensively to do a little bit more damage. Going 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The only one was Josh Smith's walk-off home run. Now, there were some quality at-bats with runners in scoring position, and I do want to give a shout-out to Adolis Garcia, who got dropped lower in the order. I think rightfully so. Him hitting 7th is about probably where he should be right now, if not lower. But him coming through with a big base hit in a clutch situation, and an absolutely horrendous throwing error by Chas McCormick, and some good base running by Adolis Garcia. First run of the game coming off of that sac fly from Leody Taveras, scoring Nathaniel Lowe, who, by the way, had a really good base running move himself, going first to third on that single by Adolis Garcia. And then on one of the most horrendous outfield throws I've seen in a long, long time. I don't know if it was the worst, but that attempt to get Nathaniel Lowe at home plate was not that deep of a throw. Possibly could have nailed him with an accurate throw, but one of the more inaccurate throws that I've ever seen. Adolis Garcia being smart, tagging up at first base, going to second, and then taking third once the ball got so far away that none of the Astros players knew where it was going. Seeing him be aggressive like that and him being robbed in a situation late in the game by a great defensive play by this Astros outfield, which is a very, very good defensive outfield with Myers and McCormick as well out there. Not so much in right field with Kyle Tucker sidelined, but it's a very good defensive outfield that took away quite a few base hits from this Rangers squad that probably should have had a few more hits strung together. But I like the look of this lineup. I like Josh Young hitting cleanup. I think that should be where he is moving forward. And also, not to mention the great plate appearance by Wyatt Langford, the only one who faced off against Josh Hader in that 9th inning and didn't strike out. He worked a walk after being down 0-2. Just a fantastic plate appearance, getting to 10 pitches in that at-bat and working a walk, fouling off tough pitch after tough pitch after tough pitch, after striking out looking, again, earlier in this game, just something that is happening probably a lot too frequently with Wyatt Langford. One of the few things offensively that I'll really harp on a rookie for is not being a little bit more aggressive protecting with 2 strikes, but he gets Josh Hader to balk at what was a very, very weird delivery, and then the very next pitch ended up being fouled off by Nathaniel Lowe, but trying to steal third on a pitcher who is clearly just trying to focus on his balance, that is the kind of aggression we've seen from Wyatt Langford. And, if he had taken third and there had been another balk or another wild pitch or something like that, would have scored the winning run. But that would have deprived us from the joy and the majesty of Josh Smith's first walk-off home run at any level. This was a magnificent game for Josh Smith. I've been a little worried about him since the All-Star break. I mean, some of his underlying data, says that this isn't necessarily the most sustainable. You look at his average exit velocity, barrel percentage. He's not hitting the ball very hard. The expected batting average and slugging are way below what the actual batting average and slugging percentage are. But he's one of those guys that is hit at every single level. So there's a little bit of a question of, okay, is this the real Josh Smith? Will the real Josh Smith please stand up? Is this really that guy? Or is this just him having an out of his mind first half of a season and then coming back down to earth? And what's going to happen with him as an everyday player with Josh Young back? Well, he's still an everyday player because he's still an incredibly important part of this lineup. Working those great at-bats, hitting for more power than we have seen him do in the past, getting hit by pitches at frankly, a little worrying rate. Thankfully, he hasn't gotten hurt by any of these hit by pitches just yet, but this guy is leading Major League Baseball with 17 hit by pitches. The guy knows how to get on base. He knows how to work a good at-bat. And when you give him a pitch like that, he knows how to absolutely crush it and win a crucial game for the Rangers. Coming up, we'll talk about a little bit of this pitching staff stepping up in a huge, huge way, including a couple of lefty Andrews having absolutely fantastic games. Right after this word from our sponsors. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands to get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from a free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Now, last night, walk-off home runs are always satisfying. Walk-off home runs against the team that you hate the most are always very satisfying. But what makes them even more satisfying is when the ball don't lie. Now, the Rangers got absolutely jobbed last night by replay review. Stop me if you've heard that before. Wow, the Rangers losing an obvious replay review? Shocker. Now, last night when Yainer Diaz got hit by a pitch, it wasn't even initially called a hit by pitch. Initially, it was just ruled the ball. But then Jonah Heim and Kirby Yates were arguing, hey, that ball was foul tipped off the bat by Yainer Diaz. And then home plate umpire said, actually, no, I don't believe that it was. I believe that he was hit by a pitch. And then Yainer Diaz started acting like, oh no, wow, my wrist hurts so badly. Oh my gosh, I've been injured grievously by a hit by pitch. Only after that replay was called for. He was not acting like he was hit by a pitch initially, and then as soon as Jonah started arguing for it being a foul tip, the umpire said, no, actually, we're going to call that hit by pitch. Now, if a player is hit by pitch or even thinks they're close to getting hit by pitch, they will always immediately react by asking for first base, saying, oh, he hit me. Guys, he hit me. Clearly, he hit me. Give me first base. And the fact that replay review was instituted, that the call initially was not hit by pitch, and then after Jonah Heim was clamoring for a foul tip, then it was called a hit by pitch, and then replay went to review it and said, nope, that's fine. Everything's just fine. It's like, why do we even have replay review at this point? He was very clearly not hit by pitch, didn't react like, and then it was called afterwards. I honestly don't know what Jonah Heim did to these umpires. I don't know if it was just that replay review headset, because every time that the play goes to review in the replay, even if it's the most obviously wrong call, if it's against the Rangers, it will not be overturned. It is just an unfathomable level of mistakes from replay review to the point where it not only just slows up games, it's also still being inaccurate to the point where honestly don't think it should exist anymore. Even if you have those perfect game mess-ups like Armando Galarraga. I mean, it's just not adding more to the game, and it's not being done right, and maybe it's just because it's been wronging the Rangers so frequently. But it's just incredible the level to which even the most obviously wrong calls against the Rangers are still getting upheld. But Josh Smith thankfully made that a moot point, because if you lose a game on that, your all-star closer, one of the best closers in the game, gives up a run on that in the 10th inning. After that, giving up a run on the clearly actually hit by pitch. Still, incredibly frustrating for that to be a way to give up a run. And instead, it did not end up mattering because Josh Pookie Smith said, "I got you, Pookie. Don't worry. I'm smacking this thing over the friggin' fence." Thank God for the ball not lying. But the rest of this Rangers pitching staff, even Kirby Yates, still had a good game. 2 innings of shutout ball, 4 strikeouts for him. Coming up big, outside of that actual hit by pitch. I mean, walking Yordan Alvarez intentionally twice in his final 2 plate appearances, I think was absolutely the right move. Oh, the Rangers are scared to pitch Yordan Alvarez. Yeah, I would be too when he's the only player in this lineup with an OPS north of 800. Not Jose Altuve, not Bregman, not Yainer Diaz behind him, not Jeremy Pena with a 704 OPS in the 5-hole. Not that the Rangers' 5-hole hitter was that much better, Wyatt Langford with his 679 OPS in the 5-hole, but still, this lineup is not nearly as fearsome as it used to be, and there's not the protection behind Yordan Alvarez that you feel bad about pitching around him. I mean, heck, there are only really 4 truly dangerous guys in this lineup right now. That's Jose Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez, and Diaz. And Bregman has not been having a very good year so far. But still, the Rangers were able to pitch very, very well in this one, getting a massive performance out of Andrew Heaney. Just truly massive. Only 1 hit, which happened to be the solo bomb from Bregman, and 1 walk. And that was it. Through 6 innings, those were the only base runners that Andrew Heaney gave up. Just an absolutely huge performance from the guy who has been the most underrated, most undervalued, most underappreciated this season. The only pitcher on the staff who has not gone on the IL. Well, I should say starting pitcher on the staff who has not spent time on the IL. He has been so huge, just getting in there every 5th day and not having so many blow-up starts. I know his last start out was not really what the Rangers were looking for. It was a couple of frustrating outings in a row, actually, giving up those runs in St. Louis and not being able to get through 5, and then in Toronto, going 5 innings and giving up 4 runs. Not what the Rangers were looking for there. But still, this has been a guy who has been so consistent all year long, and the Rangers have needed every single one of his starts. They needed every single one of these pitches by the bullpen. Not a great outing from Leclerc, only getting the 1 out on the sacrifice bunt. Still a very good play made. Bringing in Andrew Chafin in there, making the right decision by Bruce Bochy to be able to have these weapons, be able to have an Andrew Chafin to be a team that went for it at the deadline, and Chafin coming in, and of course walking the first batter he faces on 4 pitches to get the bases loaded. But as bad as the Rangers were with the bases loaded and runners in scoring position, the Astros were somehow even worse. Only 1 for 9, the Astros, with runners in scoring position on the day, and that 1 hit was an infield hit fielded by Josh Young with the bases loaded, trying to make a play at home plate. A little bit difficult. Probably could have gotten Pena at first base if he had tried for it, but the run would have scored anyway. It still did score. But still, the Astros striking out twice with the bases loaded and 1 out in a game where they really could have done a lot more damage. And another outing where they had another inning where they had the bases loaded and 1 out and struck out twice again. The Astros struck out 4 different times with the bases loaded in this game. Rangers relievers stepping up big, and those Chafin pitches were absolutely massive, including that final pitch of the inning, a slider just outside the zone, but close enough to make the batter swing at it, and not to mention the batter he struck out before with a couple of sliders just straight up in the dirt. That thing is absolutely nasty if he's making hitters swing at those pitches that are just completely buried. The break on that thing is just straight up nasty. And having another reliever like that to be able to go to in a situation like that where you need a dominant lefty or just a dominant reliever It was just a huge, huge spot for this bullpen coming up yet again. David Robertson did end up giving up that run, pitched very well in that tight situation, getting a couple of strikeouts. This whole Rangers bullpen as a whole pitching well in an extra inning game and not having to use every single one of your A-side relievers. And that's another good thing about getting another A-side reliever. The Rangers did have to spend 4 innings of their bullpen in this one, all top-tier guys in Leclerc and Chafin and Robertson and Yates, who went a massive 2 innings there, getting those 4 strikeouts. They only did give up the 1 run, which, again, should not have been given up. But still, the Rangers being able to have those leverage arms, being able to do well in these extra innings games. Heck, the Rangers only have 1 loss in extra inning games this season. They're 6-1. Almost all of them decided by 1 run. And this being the first extra inning walk-off home run of the season. Just a huge, huge type of win that even though it wasn't dominating, even though the Rangers definitely had more chances to win it and could have, maybe should have won it earlier, they won it. And at the end of the day, or at least at this point in the season, the winning is all that matters. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. If you're feeling good about the Rangers' AL West odds, right now they are the 3rd favorite on FanDuel to win the AL West, behind the Mariners at -135, the Astros at +120, and the Rangers sitting there at +1100. They're still 4.5 games out, but I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, this is what sparks them. Or you're thinking, all right, I don't think they're going to win the World Series, but I think they're going to win the American League. +550, 5,500 right now to win the American League. Or you're thinking about the Olympics. You know, right now, Gabrielle Thomas -240 to win the women's 200-meter sprints at the Olympics. So check it all out. Go to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Now, I've talked about it a lot the last couple weeks, the last couple months, really, of, hypothesizing if some big game would be a spark. Is this going to be a spark? Is that going to be a spark? And on yesterday's show, I said, I'm just kind of sick of it. It needs to be no spark. It needs to be just fire. Catch fire right now, which is a big ask for this team. But when you have a walk-off home run like that, a game like that, so back and forth, so close against a team that you are chasing, that you have a history with, that you have a deep rivalry with, that is something that can actually be the kind of catalyst that can spark a big, big run, which the Rangers desperately need. I mean, you combine the fact that Josh Smith got that walk-off home run against that team that you dislike so much, and then you follow it up with Tuesday, Tyler Mahle making his Rangers debut. That's another thing that could hopefully spark this team, get this team going. Against Framber Valdez, a pitcher who the Rangers have been able to get to, who has been more mortal this year than he has been in years past. Still a very good pitcher, been pitching well the last few games. Had a rough start to the season, has been much better. Don't get me wrong, Framber Valdez, still a very good pitcher, but a pitcher who the Rangers can get to. And the Rangers getting that boost to the rotation in Tyler Mahle. I don't know exactly what he's going to look like. I mean, I don't know that anybody does. I'm anticipating somewhere around the 80 to 90 pitch mark is where he's going to be limited to in this game. But the Astros haven't seen him this year. Nobody's seen him this year. At least no major league lineup has faced off against him this year. Maybe the command will be a little spotty because that's kind of what you expect from a guy coming back in his first game since Tommy John surgery. That's not actually Tommy John surgery, but it's basically Tommy John surgery. That is what we have seen has been the pattern. He has been a little more out of the strike zone than typically he's been in his career in those starts in the minor leagues, but the Rangers get a huge, huge boost in getting Mahle back, and then we'll see what they do with their rotation on Wednesday. They'll face off against Yusei Kikuchi, who had a good first start with the Astros. He was a guy who the Rangers got to in his last start against them, when he was with the Blue Jays. The Rangers were able to get to him. Weren't able to win that game, but they were able to get to Yusei Kikuchi, so he's a guy who they have just seen. And then you add Josh Smith back, Josh Young back into this lineup. Two lefties who Josh Young absolutely mashes, and also Wyatt Langford absolutely mashes. This is the kind of thing that can spark that kind of a run, which they desperately need, but they can't have it just be a spark. This needs to be a flame. This needs to be a winning streak. This is basically that same predicament that the Rangers were in heading into the trade deadline of you need to get going now. There is no time. There is no time left. This is the time. Granted, there are still 40-something games left at this point, but you cannot afford to sit down there and wait. Yeah, this stretch that's coming up is going to be difficult, but there's no choice. There's no 4-game series against the White Sox to kind of start cooking and get yourself in order. There's no series against the Marlins coming. There's no series against some other bad team. This is all playoff caliber teams that the Rangers are facing for basically the rest of this month, outside of the actual White Sox, who they'll face in the 27th through the 29th, and then the A's the 30th through the 2nd of September. But still, you got these 3 games against the Astros. You got a road trip that's going to be incredibly difficult against the Yankees, against the Red Sox. Then you come back to the home for 4 games against the Twins, who are very hot right now, and the Pirates, who have an incredible pitching staff. And your starters, your lineup has not hit very well, so it doesn't take an incredible pitching staff to shut this team down so far this year. But this is the kind of thing that this team had at points last year. This is the kind of thing that this team had in the playoffs. Just these moments of magic, these digging deeper, these finally coming through moments. And I think that moving Adolis Garcia down the lineup was absolutely the right call. He had mostly very good plate appearances in this game. He's had better plate appearances as of late. The results haven't quite been there. The homers haven't quite been there. And his last plate appearance of the game was objectively very, very bad. And I don't think that it's time to just bench Adolis Garcia altogether, but I think giving him more off days, giving Ezekiel Duran some more time, heck, maybe even giving Josh Smith some time out there in right field, or maybe it'll be Wyatt Langford out there in right field. But Smith is going to be the super utility player every single day. That's what Bruce Bochy said, and that is a perfect role for Josh Smith, a guy whose value is in his versatility. Playing good defense at shortstop this year, at third base this year. Heck, this is the first time he's played the outfield all year, but he's been capable of that. He's done it in his past. I don't know what the Rangers will end up doing with, Langford long-term, whether he's going to stick forever in left field, whether he's going to spend some time in center field, whether he's going to spend some time in right field. Not entirely sure. I think they feel more comfortable with him splitting time at DH and left field this year, but we've seen the reps of Langford being a good defender out there, and at this point, you just got to get all of your bats in there and get hot. Now, it feels like the weight of the world is on Adolis Garcia's shoulders right now because of what he can do, what he has done, what we have seen him do time and time again. In big moments, when the Rangers need him most, him getting on a hot streak and helping carry this offense. We saw it in the postseason last year. We saw it in April of this year. We saw it this year. We haven't seen it in a long time for this season, but we did see it this year. Heck, we even saw it in September of last year with those massive home runs once he came off the IL, those big home runs in Anaheim. And heck, trying to keep this team in it in Seattle when they stumbled their way into the playoffs to end the year. The Rangers' ceiling, floor to ceiling, the fall off has been tremendous from pretty much everybody. Seager, you take out that first month of the season when he was getting right, and his numbers have been about where Corey Seager expects to be. Marcus Semien has had that incredibly long drought of, basically 2 months of him being truly terrible, but he's turned it on as of late. We saw a big power drought from Nathaniel Lowe, but the biggest gap from what they can be to what they have been offensively this year, it's got to be Adolis Garcia. I mean, everything has just fallen off with him, and I'm sure he's putting the weight of the world on his shoulders to just get incredibly hot and go on that kind of a streak. I think moving him down in the order is a good sign of, hey, we still believe in you. You're still in this lineup, but we can't have you in all of those big spots. We need you to be lower on in this order, and If you get hot, then maybe you can make your way back to the cleanup hitter or hitting 5th or 6th or wherever. But right now, every game needs to be about the right now. If Zeke Duran needs to play more in right field, more every day than Adolis Garcia, then I think that might be the move. If Wyatt Langford needs to be the everyday right fielder and Josh Smith in left field and then Zeke Duran at DH, then maybe that's the move. I don't know what it is, but something like this is the start of a fire that this team has desperately lacked this year and truly needed. This kind of a moment doesn't come along very often, but when it does, you need to take advantage of it. Ride that wave, ride that hot streak, ride that good feeling. I mean, heck, just having a good feeling after a game like this, maybe even after a series like this, if this can start to turn into something, maybe that is what this team needs to sneak back into the playoffs and surprise the whole world once they get there. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about, hopefully, a brilliant debut from Tyler Mahle and the start of a winning streak. But even if not, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.